So today we'll start the panel discussion now on the topic taking a sectoral approach to cybersecurity skills, addressing the gap in the financial services sector. So we have Mr. Kush Wadhwa, Senior Director Alvarez and Marcel, who would be moderating the session. I would like to invite you on the stage, sir. So I would like to invite the panelists onto the stage, so they'll be introducing themselves. So I would like to invite Mr. Arindam Roy, Country Director, India and South Asia for SANS, Ms. Priya Madhavan, Consultant, SSC NASCOM, Mr. Ramesh Guram, CISO, Multi-Commodity Exchange of India Limited, Mr. Katan Desai, Co-Founder of Bugbase.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. The worst time to have this panel is after lunch. I know it's very, very difficult, but we'll try to engage you guys. We'll try to make it interesting. Just a quick round of introduction. I'm Kush Wadhwa, coming with 17 years of experience in cyber and forensic technology space. I'm a senior director with Alvarez and Marcel, and I've seen this domain grow from the scratch where the data was nothing to where it stands today. We are going to talk a lot more about the issues in the financial sector, what the cyber security issues are, what the gap issues are in terms of the qualified skill sets that exist in the market, so on and so forth. So definitely I look to the panelists for a very interactive session. Over to Arindam.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Arindam Roy. I'm the Country Director for Science Institute for India and the South Asia region. I'm happy to be part of this particular panel to talk about the challenges in the skill sets, especially in the cybersecurity in the FINSEC industry. And I look forward for a great discussion. Thank you very much.
Over to Ramesh.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Ramesh Guram. I'm CISO of Multi-Commodity Exchange of India. I'm looking forward to have great thoughts from all our panelists on this topic.
Kathan.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. I'm Kathan. I'm the founder of Bugbase. I typically work with a lot of ethical hackers, so I would love to give a thought on how skill sets can be developed while security is the major issue here. So security skills and how especially fintech, right, finance or BFSI sector can use those crowds to help identify vulnerabilities in their assets. So looking forward to have a good session.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Priya Madhavan. I'm part of NASCOM's Future Skill Initiative. So this is an initiative with MITI and NASCOM. So we have a platform which helps people get digital skills. So the biggest goal that we have for this is 4 lakh people in India should be digitally skilled probably in another 18 months. So that's where I come into the panel as part of the skilling initiative. With respect to security, my experience is not as much as Kush. It's about 5 years. My last role in corporate was with Cognizant, where I was heading the security practice. So security experience is just 5 years.
Thank you, Priya. I think you have already answered one of my questions related to cyber skill gap, but I'll definitely want to have more elaborative discussion on this topic. So starting this session, so I'm coming from a background where my father retired as a bank manager, and I have seen how the money flowed from one account to the other, how the credits and debit entries were made. Those were all the by khatas, the registers that were maintained. And now the world has moved to the digital space. Even, it was really easy to make the changes on the hard copy documents, but now everything is digitalized. Logs are maintained. Definitely, it helps the cyber expert to understand what exactly has happened in case something goes wrong. So starting my career in 2006, the issue was not that serious. The financial institutes have not migrated completely to the digital space. as we fast forward, if we see after 17 years, I see, lot and lot of activities happening on the digital platforms. There are a lot more other platforms that are coming in, and it will keep evolving. With artificial intelligence, machine learning coming in, I see the pros and cons of it, but that's not the topic to be discussed. It's a separate ocean to be deep dived. But yes, that is where we stand today. And with the government focusing a lot more on digital India, I think we are in a position where lot of emphasis will be placed on cybersecurity. So if someone wants to make up their career, definitely cyber is one of the space to look into. And definitely, it's not only the proactive side, the reactive side as well, which is more about the investigative nature. Let's say the network attack happens, then cyber incident response will happen. And the reason I'm touching upon on making the career is because there is a huge gap in the cyber skills. And my first question is to my esteemed panelist Ramesh. Ramesh, what are the current challenges in cybersecurity, and how much does it attribute to cyber skill set gap, specifically in financial sector?
Okay. So to respond to this question, I'll start up with the broad level challenges nowadays what security leaders are facing. So first is the rapid digitization. So that is the biggest what we call it is happening at a rapid pace, and it's like a exploding technological innovations, which eventually leads to equal and in fact double or manifold security risks. So handling such rapid pace digitization and the relevant risks is one of the challenges security leaders are facing. And next is the sophistication of cyber attacks. If you see the earlier days when we used to see only malware attacks or some small data theft kind of a thing. Now, if you see the level of sophistication happening in cyber attacks, it's like unimaginable. So take the example of ransomware. Ransomware is, like making the lives of all CISOs and security leaders like sleepless nights, all that. So that sophistication has led to a kind of biggest challenge to cybersecurity teams who are operating on ground. And the third challenge I would like to highlight is the, what we call lot of, changes, regulatory heat across the globe. If you see, all the regulators are coming very heavily on cybersecurity related expectations. Lot of stringent regulations starting from GDPR, all that. Though it is related to privacy, of course, it is also indirectly a biggest challenge to all security leaders to meet all these regulatory expectations. And just to add to this point, if you observe for the last 1 or 2 years, right from ISO getting totally revamped, coming up with lot of stringent control statements to be met by all organizations, especially BFSI. And if you see PCI DSS, it's totally got revamped recently, right? PCI DSS 4.0 is like, it is coming up very heavily on what kind of a security controls should be in place to meet the expectations of PCI DSS. And then if you see RBI, SEBI, all regulators are formulating very stringent policies around cybersecurity. So this is, I can say, third biggest challenge cybersecurity leaders are facing. And fourth one, I would say the biggest beast of all is scarcity of cyber skills. That's what is today's discussion. We are all sitting out here. That is one of the biggest risks out of these four. If I have to rate among all the four, so in order to meet 1, 2, 3, I should have a skilled resources in place. I should have people from various verticals: governance, risk, compliance, risk assessment, SOC operations, tools, technologies, and including the recent developments like AIML, generative AI. They are all, kind of verticals where we should have skill sets. So earlier we used to hear something called 90-10 rule. Most of you might have heard about, right? So 90-10 rule says about like 90% if you have tools and technologies in place, security can be taken care, and only 10% of it will suffice from the policies and people perspective. If in order to have people process technology composition of cybersecurity, 90% is was, in fact, not is. So now that formula, time has come for all of us to reverse that formula. It is 90-10. 90 should attribute to the skill sets and people-oriented security, cyber security. And the 10 should be with the technologies and other aspects of security. That's what I can say. These are, and just to add to the financial sector, what I mentioned is in a generic way of challenges for all security folks. If we have to focus more on financial sector, finance, BFSI being a kind of, hive of direct money, right? If some customer of BFSI is caught or compromised, there is a direct benefit to the hacker. So having that exposure in place, so financial sector, these challenges are in fact, I would say 10-fold or 100-fold more.
Thank you, Ramesh. Just bringing in my experience in the investigation space on, and touching upon what Ramesh mentioned about the regulators getting heavy and regulations getting very stringent around the financial sector. Definitely, there has been a large shift in way the regulators operate. So one of the capital market industry where, for one of the organizations we were investigating, they have a requirement, the regulatory requirement is to change the auditors after every 3 regular audits. And on paper it was changed, but the company in actual was the same. They did mention that the auditor is different, but when we saw the CCTV footage, the logbooks and everything, the auditor was same. And that calls for a heavy penalty to the capital market organization, to our clients. And definitely we investigated to what extent the damage was done. So absolutely, I completely agree to what Ramesh mentioned, that regulators are getting very stringent on various aspects related to financial sector. And now I was talking to one of the colleagues in this conference where he mentioned about possible rule out of the data privacy laws, within, I think in the next 6 months it will be rolled out. But again, it's speculative and we need to see when it's rolled out. But once it is done, definitely the penalties are huge. It's not 2% or 4% like GDPR. It's the fixed amount that has been set out. It's the tier levels that the regulators have set. Or sorry, not the regulators, but in the proposed bill, it is said it will become a law. And then, the real action will start off from there itself. Again, cyber security skill set, again, it's a gap, and we have Arindam with us from SANS, who is that body is, that SANS organization is someone which needs no introduction, because the certifications are so unique. They are well crafted for specific domain. So Arindam, over to you. What are the steps that government should take with banking and finance industry to mitigate the gaps and build a safer nation? Also, if you can tell the audience on what are some of the unique certifications that they can go for to build up their career if they need to.
Thank you, Khush. So let me start with what Ramesh was saying over here. So ransomware is the main pain in the CISOs in today's world, because nowadays, if you have done some research, ransomware is not only an attack, it's being available as a service. There's a ransomware as a service business model which is available, and there are 3 parties working on that. Party A facilitates ransomware, party B who enters into the network, and the party 3 who does everything. So just to catch up with what Ramesh was saying is that the bad guys are more intelligent and they're far ahead of us, the good guys. Anyways, so what I want to say over here is that there's a huge gap. I think so everyone over here will agree that there is a huge gap between the required skilled and certified cybersecurity resource and what is available in the market. And this gap is not narrowing. When we were working with the NASSCOM in 2017-18 with the Sector Skills Council certifications and NOx and other thing, we found a gap and we had a mission. The gap is increasing every day. And what is the reason behind this particular gap the widening. The only challenge is that we are investing on infrastructure, on tools, on softwares. But the weakest links are being taken as a, instead of a proactive approach, it's more of a reactive approach. That's the first point. Second point is that cybersecurity is very much new, a particular field for the veterans who passed out in 90s or even in 80s. So what we are doing for those veterans who want to change their field into cybersecurity, which is going to stay for the next 10 years, 20 years with more digitalization and everything. So as for my understanding is that until security certification providers are ample in the market, science is one of them. I should not touch base on that. It's up to the mindset of the organizations and the resources. They would choose the right certification and the right career path. But what we can do is that we should have, with the government of India and the fintech industry, we should have a reskilling path for the immediate short-term crisis of the resources, cybersecurity resources. It can be pulling more women into this particular field of education, which may be sponsored by one of the big enterprise, a couple of big enterprises. We are doing the similar program in USA. It's called Women in Security, which is being sponsored by Google, Meta, and Bloomberg. So that is one of the way. Second thing is that there are plenty of armed defense personnel who takes retirement on an early like 10 years service, 12 years service, 20 years service. They should have a path ahead. And for that, we propose that we are working with US, Canada, Australia, Singapore, is that we should have a cyber academy in India. It can be collaborated with any institute, any thought leaderships, but we should have a cyber academy in India for the veterans who are there into this particular thing. Apart from that, there should be a long-term plan. So what I mean by long-term is that we should have a cyber discovery program, something like that, which is very popular in UK, with the UK government, with the US government, with Canadian government, Singapore government, even in UAE and Bahrain. So what is that? You pick up the skills or you inject the cybersecurity education within from the age group of 14 to 18. They are the high school students. They should be being treated in such a way, it should not be part of their syllabus or some examination. It should be in the form of a gamification. Nowadays, if you find any children, they are addicted to mobiles. Okay, so you teach them cybersecurity in the form of game from an age group of 8 to 14. Once they qualify that particular 4 levels of gaming, move to the next level, which is the foundations, which is a new to cyber. They understand what cybersecurity is theoretically, apply it into the practical knowledges, and the last part would be the few selected from that particular program should be given a chance to play the CTFs, what we call as a boot-up CTFs on a regular basis. In that way, we can generate the pools for the near future. Coming to the second part of what Kush was saying is that what certifications? There are many certifications which is coming up nowadays. I would particularly focus on a couple of things. One is a cloud, which is coming up very fast, and we need to catch up on that. Second is forensics, because we are more proactive, so we should be more capable of handling the differs incidents once it is being done. That capability should be built. And the third one, I personally believe is that the leadership team should have the proper knowledge of what cybersecurity is and what cybersecurity can be a dangerous part for the organization if being neglected. So the senior leadership also should be aware of the cybersecurity threats and whatever the incidents happening. That's my take, Coach.
Thank you, Arindam. I think me being into this domain, and a lot of you may agree or disagree to this, but I feel, see, cybersecurity is not something which has become mature. It is just the start, and it will never become mature because the way I see it is it's a fight between 0 and 1. You make something, the attackers have the breakthrough for that particular security. So it's an evolving field, and the biggest challenge for a cyber expert is keeping himself or herself updated on that particular domain. So you learn something now, it's not the end to it. Within 1 year or 2 years, that technology is gone. And then there is another thing. The real game is yet to start, where artificial intelligence is coming in, where the AI is going to write a code which will have more capabilities to identify zero-day vulnerabilities, exploit it, and perform a more sophisticated, matured attack on the organization, and it will be difficult for the incident responders as well to analyze. And I think it's just about updating the knowledge on what is happening and what needs to be done to identify that attack. But again, definitely there is a cyber skill gap, and that needs to be, addressed in one form or the other. For my next panelist, Kathan, uh, what are the potential benefits and challenges of forming public-private partnership in the financial sector to address the cybersecurity gap? And to attach to this question is, how can collaboration between the industries, government, and academia enhance the sector's overall cybersecurity resilience?
Perfect, right? I mean, we have heard a lot of good things from all the other panelists as well, but I would love to start with a fact here. India has been an engineering first company, right? We have produced more engineers than ever before, and now we have seen the cybersecurity also as a domain that people or students per se are taking up, right? To the fact that 40% of the hackers around the world are from India. Now the fact comes in the quality, right? And that's why we are here to discuss about how we can upskill ourselves, not just the CXO's positions, but starting from a very initial stages, I would say students, right? Because most of the hackers in India, especially right now, are from 18 to 25 age, right? That's what we have also realized. So talking about private and public relations, I have certain things noted down. So it's always helpful when companies start acknowledging a particular vulnerability getting submitted or reported by some third-party hacker or third-party reporter, right? This is very difficult to understand. The challenge also comes in this part itself, wherein most companies are not comfortable enough engaging with those hackers because they might just randomly spam and write rogue emails, but that they might have a very good faith behind that, right? We still in India, we are still progressing on that front, how to submit a particular bug report or how should it be made written down so that it's much more logical on a company's end, right? So that's why the comfortability part is the challenge, but the better part here is to be comfortable and disclose the disclose the vulnerability once it's actually resolved, right? And that's how you can help others to learn as well. Bug bounty in per se itself is a very famous concept in US, wherein Google started it off 10 years back, and they have publicly made all the bug reports public as well, right? Wherein they are disclosing a particular vulnerability that was identified in Android. No one is saying that you should publicly disclose it within the first 2 weeks, but even after 6 months, right? That actually helps others to identify, okay, if there is a similar vulnerability in my application or not. Talking about other private relationships or public relationships, every vulnerability per se has a CVE identity, right? And it's a standard protocol for every company to report a newer vulnerability to CERT, right? CERT is a institution which would make that vulnerability public or have a reports on newer vulnerability as well. And Indian CERT is the CV authority, right? So if somebody finds a unique vulnerability, they should go report it to CERT so that they can have a CV ID attached to it, and so that they can have a proper report drafted for each vulnerability, and hence every company and organization can go forward resolving those vulnerability. Majorly talking about the challenges for FinSec or BFSI is the loss in a production environment is pretty high, right? If as a CISO somebody starts focusing on skill gap, they might just miss out on the security part or the data leak part that could come in, which is on the production environment itself. But there are ways to do that as well. You can have testing environment set up that on which you can accept the bug reports or which you can make the bug reports public on. But certainly the comfort level needs to be improved here. Touching upon the last point that I have is definitely having an R&D team, right? Public and private relationships, or even academia per se, right? Everybody has a R&D team which is doing research on the newer skill sets that could be built out. Developer or development or engineering per se was built out starting from open source now to hackathons and everything, right? Cybersecurity is still evolving. We need to do research on how how it can be gamified or how practical we can, because everybody, the manpower, the benefits of the manpower is that everybody has different ideology of finding out a vulnerability. I can find out clickjacking by X ways, you can find it out by X ways, right? Just an example here. So we need to have that R&D setup as well. Like Arindam mentioned, how we can gamify it, right? Gamification is the best part that we humans realize how to learn new things as well. So this would be my answer to it.
Sure, Kajan. Thank you. One thing that, when I started, when I was getting on the stage to start this panel, one thing that I really wanted to convey this to all my audiences, see, no matter how big the organization is, whatever the products that they develop, trust me, it is not something that you should go blind that it's a Google product or Microsoft product and it's free of bugs that exist. So as an incident responder, we were investigating a case in December 2022, and it lasted till end month of January 2023. And there was a bug. There is still a bug. You want to call it as or not, but Microsoft O365 has one bug where the authentication happens, where you get a call and you just press the pound key and the authentication is done. It is one of the 4 ways that you get the MFA done. MFA is done either through SMS, through the authenticator app, or through the SMS on your registered mobile number, or a call on the registered mobile number. But the biggest issue with the last option is that when you get a call, you don't get to hear a code in it. You get to hear a voice from the female which says, press the pound key to authenticate. That's it, and you are done. So now what happened in our case was, there was a MFA bombing attack on the registered mobile number. Now you as a human being, if you are getting a call again and again, and that too from the state's number, you would be, tempted to pick up the phone number and they'll say, okay, press the pound key. And I'm talking about the non-tech person. Even for the tech person, you will say, okay, I don't know what kind of authentication that they are asking for. Let's press the pound key. You press the pound key, and then you don't know what happens next because you don't know what it was related to. And the authentication is done at the back end. That's all. That's what the hackers do. Hacking is not something very techie. They just play with the minds of the human beings on how humans are going to respond to a specific situation. Long story short, we had a word with Microsoft to disable it across the platform, but then they said that this is a vulnerability, they are aware of it, but they cannot disable it because of XYZ reason, and it still is there. So just FYI, if anyone is using it, disable that option. Moving to Priya. Priya, my again biggest worry is about the cyber skills only. And I see a lot of gaps in there, which is not going to be addressed very, in the near time. So I know you are working on, giving the education or training 4 lakh citizens of India. But do you think, is there a way that we can train people in a similar domain? So let's say someone with the IT background, they can be trained into cybersecurity, or they can be transferred from the IT administrator to a cybersecurity expert. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, so Kush, that's a great question. In fact, as DSCI and Future Skills Prime team, we put together a group of experts. There were about 12 people from industry, where we got together and we said, what are the skill sets? And this is something that while I was in the security professional, I did use the people from network. I got them trained on security and used them in the security projects. And the benefit that I got is they were experienced people. They knew the limitations, the problems, and how to handle the incidents. So when getting them trained on security just was very, very useful for me. So this was good both at the fresher level as well as the experience level. So more and more, I'm sure all of you know, I'm probably preaching to the choir, experience matters a lot in cybersecurity. How to handle the incidents, how do you, mitigate the situation and all that stuff. So what we took up as an example is, let's look at the nearby skills and see if we can do a little bit of training and get them into security. So what we looked at was the people who were in the network space. So it could be the network engineer or a network architect or a network administrator. What is it that we can skill them to make them into a cybersecurity professional? So the immediate thing that we felt is, if we train the network person on security, they can become a NOC analyst, or they can become a NOC expert. Or if we train them a little bit on identity, they can become a PIM-PAM experts.
Exactly.
Then if we can train them on firewall, then they can become a firewall expert. So there are so many areas where we could train the network experts onto specific fields in security based on their interest, and their value also increases in the market, and the value for the enterprise is also increasing. So this was a very detailed exercise which we did. There were about 12 experts from the industry. I can probably later on share with you one such career map that we did. What are the skill sets required for a network engineer to become a SOC analyst? Very simple. They have to get understanding of security fundamentals, and they need to understand how to handle the security incident response. And there they go. They become a SOC analyst with a very little amount of training. And basically how to handle the incident response, how to give data for an audit. So just train them on very little things, and then they become productive. So this is what we did, and this is available. We can share it with people. So this was one of the areas, network to move to security. So people are reskilled, their value increases, and the company also benefits with security professionals.
Wow.
Just I wanted to add a point here. So I've seen the best security guys are the developers, right? So they know where they have made an issue, so they can understand where you might have also been making an issue, right? So these guys are the best security folks that I have seen personally.
I have a counter thought on that one, and sorry if there are any developers in this room. I feel developers are the most laziest of all the breeds in the cyberspace, and this laziness definitely brings in the innovation, because they want to get the maximum out. They want to give maximum output with the minimum efforts. So definitely, developers are someone, and even if we identify the vulnerabilities in the application security, we go to the developer to fix it. So absolutely, Kathan, I understand your thought process, and absolutely my thoughts are in line with your thoughts. So I think that developer is the key aspect to it. But definitely, if you are using a third-party application, then the whole focus is on working with OEM to fix those vulnerabilities, like for the Log4j vulnerability. Moving on to the next question, Ramesh, how to tackle the cybersecurity challenge with sectorial approach, and what organizations should do in building cyber resilient workforce?
That's a really great question. See, in my view, as a security leader and all the leaders sitting out here, the main overall objective will be to create a cyber resilience in the organization. So for the sake of this topic, I'll not talk about the cyber resilience from technical and processes front. For the human resources as well, there has to be a cyber resilience in place. Okay. So that whatever the challenges, the issues we so far discussed, the plan and the thought process will be like, I start off with my own experience. Like when we started building a new team, so I would take it as a life cycle of how to build a team and ensure that cyber resilience is maintained at people aspect as well. So when we are creating the requirement right from the JD itself, we have not created a JD which asks for 10 plus years or 6 plus years, or for a L1 guy, we cannot expect 5 years of experience. Or having so many certifications, so many, list of qualifications, all that. We have made a minuscule kind of a JD and targeted to look for the attitude rather than the technical and the cybersecurity experience and certifications. Of course, there is a bar, like out of 100, we look for at least 40 to 50 in between that figure, what kind of a technical knowledge he has in cybersecurity. And the bulk of the concentration was on the, what we call, attitude. How is responding? What is the overall intention of taking this job? So that was the focal point of picking the people. Once the onboarding is done, again, onboarding process, there are other issues like salary packages, all that HR, we used to have close discussions with HR so that the selected candidate is not bounced off or backed out. So after taking him and taking him on board and putting him on the task, the expectation was we used to give him challenges. This is the requirement of the department or the organization. So this is what is the role you have to play in this team, and you have to challenge yourself. This is the requirement. Like if he's working as a SOC, what are the challenges? We used to train them. Yeah, this is one of the biggest requirements. I think Arindam, Priya ma'am, everybody is highlighting. So we have to upskill the people. We cannot simply depend upon what the skill sets or the experience those guys are coming into the team. We have to make them more knowledgeable, skillful in terms of the job on which we have put in that particular candidate. Then after that, the one more thing what we used to, of course we are doing it is, we used to define KPIs, right? All staff members are given a KPI. So our view of giving a KPI is keep people informed. KPI, not just like you are going to deliver this much of number of deliverables, this is your target, these are the figures. So instead what we used to call and train the people is, your KPI is you will be informed on what is happening in the department. What is your role? What is happening in your particular area where you are working in? KPI means to us is keep people integrated, keep people informed. So that eventually led to a lot of encouragement and a lot of inclusiveness in the team. The team felt they are core part of the cybersecurity function, and thereby they deliver like the more than expected levels. Then the next point I would like to highlight here is after taking them into the team, so there is a kind of regular guidance and what we call mentorship internally with the senior people as well as with the cross-sectional people. We used to interact with the other department heads as well. So to get the understanding of the organization, so that team is feeling not only cybersecurity person doesn't mean that he is worried more about IP address, SOC, SOC, IOCs, IOAs, TTPs, all that. No, they will also be given a kind of business acumen to understand what is the role of cybersecurity. So these are the some of the initiatives which will make the organization cyber resilient, making humans part of the what we call business objectives and part of the organization. That's how I take it from the human perspective per se. Otherwise, resilience is way to go for any cybersecurity leader, and cybersecurity resilience is the core objective of any cybersecurity function.
Okay, there's a new term that have been coined today, keep people involved. So I'll not ask my, my team members to have their KPI set because it's my responsibility to keep them involved. So okay, thanks Ramesh. Arindam, over to you. I know you have, because you have been heading SANS certification program from APAC region, and I know you have been talking to the senior leadership team of different organizations, large, mid, small. What steps are being taken by the senior leadership team at different organizations to ensure that the systems are foolproof? I know there's no terminology as foolproof, but to ensure that they are safe from the cyber attacks.
Great question, Kush. So based on my experience working with the senior leadership team in India and other countries, what I found is that there are a couple of things they put more emphasis now, especially on the human side, on development of human side. First of all is that they have a cyber talent program where they measure the progress of each and every cyber security resources based on the training being provided, based on the experience. So cyber talent program is something like that. It can be divided into multiple curriculum. It can be defense, cyber defense. It can be defer. It can be offensive curriculum. It can be cloud security. Based on where the resource is working, that particular talent program is set of questionnaires which the resource can fill up before taking us training and then after taking a training, and they can find the progress of what's the improvement over there. The second thing I found is that lots of CISOs are inclined towards implementing CTFs or the cyber challenges within the team, maybe in a part of groups, maybe in a part of individuals, where it is being played between 6 hours to 96 hours, I've seen. Sometimes I have seen CISOs giving the access for 15 days to play those particular challenges based on different roles they play. And it is being monitored online by the senior leadership team, how a resource is being performing. And at the end of this particular CTFs or the challenges, the company who performs the CTFs and challenges, they provide a report to the CISO saying that, hey, these are the benchmark. Some resources have crossed the benchmark, some hasn't got. This needs to be done. And the last thing which I've seen for the last couple of months over there is that it's called cyber security exercise, which is being implemented and readily welcomed by the CISOs. It's something like that. You have got your infrastructure, you have got a resource pool and everything. You know you have the best in the place, but still you cannot sleep quite peaceful at night because you never know when the attack is going to happen. So this is a something service with the exercise being taken care by many organizations, including us, where we go and speak with the senior leadership and we tell them, hey, this is confidential, it's between you and me. We are going to enter into a system and find out whether there's a vulnerability or not. And based on that, we'll provide you a report. So this is a mutually agreed exercise, which the CISOs are paying for, the senior leaderships are paying for, to find out what's the gap they're having in the system. So these are the few things, Kush.
I just want to add a point to what Arindam was saying. See, one of the work that NASSCOM SSC does is to come up with job standards. And how do they come up with job standards? Working with the industry experts. The industry, Arindam was also mentioning. So he was also there as part of defining the job roles and what are the skill sets required for it. So when today, if you say security analyst in Wipro, if they have a designation called security analyst in Wipro, and somebody else has a security analyst in Infosys, what is expected by that job role will be completely different because it is based on what they call. So one of the things that we addressed as part of SSC NASSCOM is define the job role, identify the competencies for that job role. And you have an assessment, and if you clear it, then it's very clear that you have the capability to do that job. So this is something that is very well accepted by the enterprise. So everybody wants to look at reskilling. So they do reskilling. And when they actually have to test the person whether they have reskilled or not, it's a question-answer session. So how much can you evaluate in a question-answer session? So if you have an assessment, then it's a very objective type of assessment that enterprises can look when they look at reskilling and standardization. The big advantage of standardization is, since I was heading the practice, I knew how much extra money we had to pay for a cybersecurity resource. If it's standardized, then you would have so many resources available, and then you don't have to pay obscene amount of salaries just because the resource pool is very small. So these are few advantages that people can look at.
Thank you. Thank you, Priya. Next question is to Kathan. Kathan, we need to, I know there's a clock taken and it's all in red. I'm giving you 1 minute to answer this question. What are the specific challenges and vulnerabilities that exist in the financial sector? My first question, and to this, the attached is the second part. How is it different from the other industries? And because you are the founder of the Bugbase, you must have seen a lot of vulnerabilities existing. But how do you perceive those challenges that exist in financial sector?
See, the most important fact is BFSI or banks and fintechs are the ones handling the most amount of data as well, right? If a bank gets hacked or if a fintech gets hacked, it would be equivalent to 500 normal D2C companies getting hacked, right? Because they'll be having the geography, address, Aadhaar card, all the confidential information, and the amount a particular person would be spending across as well through the bank transaction as well, right? So the severity of the business loss is much more. So the type of vulnerability, there is no one such list of vulnerabilities that could be identified. It definitely changes from asset to asset. But those are the ones, like data leak is the one, right? Now with the engineering boom and the fintech boom, it's also the implementation of the gateways, right? Just for example, most of the clients that I have worked in, they might have an issue with the implementation of the Razorpay gateway, for example, right? If you are not implementing that Razorpay gateway properly, somebody could directly bypass the payment itself, and that has happened with a ticketing service I was working with, right? So my hackers were able to book 45 tickets for 1 rupee, right? And that's you just go there and enjoy the event.
Can I
there,
speak to
right?
that?
So again, right, so there is no set vulnerabilities to be care of, but the main issues are the touch points that you need to figure out through which, the data loss could be maximized. For example, payment gateways or even login systems, for example, right? There could be different ways to bypass login system. One, the creative method that I have seen is through reset password. If I add in your email and just have a reset password set up, I have an option to reset your password, though it does not belong to me as well, right? So no set, and again, the
No, I
clock
just
is
want to,
ticking.
sorry, I just want to add on to what Kathan said. I
Yeah.
think we are actually, since he brought about fintech, I just want to add to that point. So we know traditional banking solutions, we know fintech solutions, and he just told few points of fintech solutions. So at the end of it, both of them look at protecting sensitive data, securing transactions, and going by the regulations, adhering to the regulations. But there are distinct differences between a fintech and a regular banking applications. One of the points that he said was a third-party integration. So if the payment gateway integration is not done properly, then you have a problem. Similarly, user credentials, if you're going to an identity provider and you're not able to integrate them properly. And there is a need for the fintech developers to know how to do the API integration. So that's an additional knowledge that they need to have. Similarly, they need to be able to do agile development. So DevSecOps becomes a very imperative skills that they need to have. And we just heard mobile in the previous session keynote. Most of the applications are mobile. So are they able to develop a secure mobile applications? Then we also talk about regulations that are there. So all of this, and cloud. Earlier, 10 years back, people said BFS won't go to cloud. Well, that's not the case here. Yeah. BFS also has a lot of applications on cloud. So understanding the cloud security, all of this becomes important. So essentially, for a regular banking technical person, if he or she needs to survive in the fintech space, they need to be very, very conversant on the digital skills. Be it AI, be it BDA, be it cloud, be it IoT, be it automation, RPA, whatever it is. So it is imperative for everybody to be digitally aware and pick up the relative skills that they want to pursue on. Sorry
No,
for
perfect.
No,
I was
absolutely.
just scared of the clock, right? In front is ticking red here.
So I think now that point has been very well put. I know time is up. I'll just take 20 seconds to add to this. So mobile security. First is the application security. Whatever the application is built, that's a problem. The second is it's for the mobile. Who all have the access to it? Is there a possibility to do the simulation for that particular app to bypass the security? Third is it is based on the cloud. So I think mobile security is a different challenge altogether, and I'll speak to Vinayak about it to have a different conference about the mobile security. But yes, that is in the world of cybersecurity that we are in. Time is running up. I know we are 3 minutes above. Just a closing remark. I'll start with myself, and then definitely I'll request my panelists, my esteemed panelists, to conclude it. See, I'm requesting all my expat friends to return back to India because it is the place to be. That amount of data that we generate it's nowhere it's there in the world. And I can tell you, I have the statistics with me. The amount of data that we investigate, it's in for one case itself, it was 30 terabytes. And in Germany, my friend was processing 3 terabytes in a year. So 30 terabytes in 2 months that we are processing and analyzing versus 3 terabytes in Germany. Same goes for the US as well. So we are in a habit of generating a lot of data, and that becomes a problem, but that is where the skill sets are required: data analytics, data crunching, data processing, data scientists, all those terms that are coined are fitting into this particular topic. So I would say to my esteemed audience to sit back, relax, and see the growth that we are going to have into the digital space, specifically in the fintech sector. And definitely, of course, because if fintech is getting digitalized, then it's the other industries that will be booming up in the digital space. So those are the closing remarks from my side, requesting Arindam to conclude it from his side as well.
Thanks, Coach. So as a part of my closing remarks, I would say that please stick to the framework, what Priya was saying about the job roles and the skill sets. Apart from that, please add a certification to each of the job roles, which are necessary as per the industry standards. And please stick to that. There's a huge task and which we all have to take care of. So let's work on that, bridge the gap as far as possible. Thank you very much.
Ramesh?
Yeah, from my side, I think I have already highlighted in the beginning that 90-10 rule, right? We have to reverse it. So we should not rely on completely on the 90 giving to technology and the other related technology space. We have to give that 90 marks to human skill sets. Building those skill sets and grooming them continuously, and especially a lot of technologies Priya ma'am spoke, and AI, ML, making so much of buzz in the industry now. So that the same, what is the impact of generative AI that we are all eager to see, especially already news are out on how these technologies are being used for cyber attacks. So having said that, bringing the team's skill sets up to a level where they are, in fact, one step ahead of hackers is the need of the hour. So for that, definitely there is the opportunity for Arindam from SANS. These guys have great opportunity for coming up with a lot of innovative courses and certifications to ensure that cyber security teams are well equipped to handle all such, recent and what we call innovative cyber attacks.
Karan?
Just one statement: cybersecurity is best learned practical, right? So even if you have developer teams, even if you have security teams, you should force them to try hack other systems or participate in CTF events or other sort of practical knowledge rather than just theoretical. Because in cybersecurity, there are different ways through which you can learn about one particular vulnerability. And I would just stick to practical knowledge rather than going just theoretical. It's much more practical than we think.
Special thanks to you to conclude it quickly. Priya, over to you.
Yeah, superbly said conclusions from all of them. Skill, reskill, upskill to have a wonderful career ahead, satisfying career ahead. And it's possible. And nothing is not doable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you so much.
So, can you please hand over the mementos? I would like to request the panelists to wait for a photograph.